2, 1. Hello all! Welcome to Eye on the Storm. Thank you for your patience. On Thursdays, for some reason, the universe conspires to give me technical difficulties more often than normal, so my fault.
It's not the universe, at least your bus driver.
Yes, my bus driver knows that we do Eye on the Storm on Thursdays, and apparently has a personal vendetta against our stream, and likes to skip my stop. So
He's just more of an RTS player, doesn't really like, cool brawlers.
he's a little bit of a isolationist that way, but
To give him a beta key.
yeah, maybe I should,
Right.
That's a really good idea. That's a good way to solve the problem. Anyway, welcome. You're here at Eye on the Storm. This is a Heroes of the Storm show. We talk about the Heroes of the Storm community, the game, how to play it, which heroes to play, how to play them, community news, just about everything about this game that is the new-ish hero brawler that is currently in closed beta for the new Blizzard game.
That's right. I'm one of your hosts, Gillyweed, and I'm joined by my awesome host, Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Gilly. How's it going?
It's good, it's good. I didn't have a bus driver fight against me, so that was nice.
That is good.
Yeah, and we're joined by Iakona today, who is our
Yay.
guest and plays for ESV Wildfire. So you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, Iakona?
Yeah. I started playing MOBAs like 4 years ago with League of Legends, which is probably a lot of people. But I actually started getting involved in esports a couple years back with Lone Star Clash that my student org was putting on. And then I got into Heroes April, I think, and I started playing it, and I never really put it down. And then I decided to kind of join a team and go pro, in a sense, in this game and just see how far it could take me.
Yeah, I see your Lone Star Clash banners back there, and that
Yeah,
brings me all
and your
sorts of good
shirt.
feels.
That's Anna and I are very fond of Lone Star Clash. That is the first time that I ever saw any competitive esports where I decided to get into esports.
Isn't that
as
where
well.
we met, too?
That's also where we met and became
Yeah,
friends.
aww. The
Aw.
feels.
Lone Star Clash. What are you?
Yeah, so, and your team, tell us a little bit about your team and what they've been up to and what you do with them and all that.
So yeah, the team originally started or created, I think, off a Reddit post back in like June or May, but I joined the team in July, right around QuakeCon, and we've had the same roster since then, which is me, Bims, Pickles, Wargreymon, and Poom, and we've been playing together. We got under the ESV Wildfire banner a couple months after that, so we've been playing as a team for like 7-8 months and playing in all the tournaments, and I think we're the team that's been actually like as a roster together for the longest time. And
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
Hey guys, in chat, I do want you to let me know if you're hearing a lot of lag. I've been having some technical difficulties on my side, and if it gets too bad, we're definitely gonna make some changes so that you don't hate your ears. So just let me know if there are some lag problems in terms of garbled speech. Do let me know. Sorry about that. But yeah, we are here on Misscliks. This is a channel devoted to the Misscliks community, which is all about uplifting and promoting and finding support for female role models in gaming culture. So we always want to thank them as our hosts, letting us have our show here. And with that, let's get right into what we're going to talk about today. Gilly, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, first of all, before we do that, you guys might have noticed that we're giving away some beta keys. Yay! So we're giving away 10 keys throughout this show. So make sure that you are chatting at least once every 10 minutes to be considered by Nightbot. You know, you can't just be in the chat. You got to be engaged in chat by talking. One other thing is that you can't win one if you've already won one from either Anna or myself or this stream before, this Misscliks show as well. So that's it. Hang out and chat, do some talking, meet your fellow Heroes of the Storm players or future Heroes of the Storm players, and hopefully you'll get a beta key from us. It's for the North American region. And with that, let's talk a little bit about Blizzard.
Yes, let's. And actually, you know, we have a couple things to talk about, but since we're on the subject of beta keys, I guess I wanted to start by talking a little bit about this beta key rollout and kind of the closed beta start. And I thought, personally, the way I've experienced it has been pretty cool in that you expected with the big closed beta open, it would be this huge wave of accounts that were suddenly given access to Heroes of the Storm, but it seems like they've been really interested in giving keys to, you know, community shows and things like what we're doing here, and letting them kind of flow out through the community influencers, which I thought was kind of interesting. Did you guys notice that or feel like that was a cool way to do it?
I love it because it's not only bringing people to check out different people, like the community within Twitch, but it's also, I mean, if they're watching it, they're getting to get, you know, more into it, and it brings more audience members. So it's kind of like a double whammy, right? They bring more testers in, and then they also bring more people to watch it and get, you know, that exposure for their community members as well. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, what do you think, iakona? Did you, as you've been in this game quite a while, you know, and you've watched them kind of slowly roll out how many people have access, how has it been going from alpha to closed beta? Has there been much of a change, or what do you think?
The game overall has definitely gone through a lot of major changes, even in alpha, different phases where there were custom games or no custom games, now they're custom. They went through a lot of phases, but I'm really liking kind of how this beta's turned out, and it's a lot more accessible to players, and I think it's a lot friendly also in general to pick up. It's got a really nice tutorial that's built out, and it's got similar enough mechanics to other MOBAs that people can kind of pick it up easily. And I really like also the way they're going around giving access, that they're giving the keys to these community members, so it promotes the community members promote the game, and the game promotes the community members, and it's this give and take relationship that they both kind of grow at the same time, and they both help each other out in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
I love it. They were also giving a ton at PAX South too.
Oh yeah? I wasn't there, but I think I saw some Twitter pictures like that.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool as well. They had a bunch of cardboard cards, and we're just a ton too. So I think they're being pretty liberal with the beta keys, which is nice as well. So if you haven't gotten in yet, have hope, guys, because I think it's probably coming.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think the keys are getting less and less rare, and I heard a rumor that some big community names were going to be giving out like a ton tomorrow. So I would be on Twitch tomorrow.
Oh, really?
That's my insert. I don't actually know if it's true, but someone told me that a large sum of keys were going to be given out from some familiar faces in the community. So if I were you and I was looking for a beta key, I would be looking out. And that's not just I'm probably going to stream tomorrow and give out one, but I think there's going to be more. But anyway, you know, I think that overall there's a huge positive feeling toward Blizzard in the community right now. There's, I think they're being really careful, and for me, it's really nice to see that they're really trying so hard to involve the community in the evolution of the game, especially as somebody who is making community content. So that's been really exciting. But today was kind of one of those days where a lot of us sat back and were like, ugh, because there was this article that came out, and we can look at it on Reddit because it's actually since been taken down. But let me show you guys what we got here.
Can we get a chat?
Yeah, I can link the Reddit post in chat. I can do that. So this article came out, said there was an anonymous source from Blizzard who had all these things to say about what was going on in Blizzard. And what's of note for us, I guess, is that they said that Heroes of the Storm is apparently not expected. There's low expectations for it, and they're saying all the senior staff is going to be let go. Now, instantly when I saw this, my instant reaction was like, eh. Was that your reaction too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what? No.
I mean, the consensus, I think, was the general, like, exhale of air through the lips. That reaction was pretty common. But I guess I would say, like, should we be worried about this? Should we be encouraged by this? What were your guys' reactions, and what would you encourage people to think as they kind of process this kind of information?
I would say they take a grain of salt. Like, keep watching, but the providing beta keys, like pumping up the game and stuff, it's hard for me to believe that it's just moved into beta and already somebody's saying, oh, there's no expectations for it, etc., etc. We're going to fire people when we don't even know how the game's doing. It's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah. What about you, iakona?
It's too early for Blizzard to already be cutting a game. Like, it's already in beta. It's got a lot of hype given out. They're promoting it putting a lot of like money into marketing it, they just abandon ship all of a sudden. There's not really any signs that this game is like shrinking. The community's growing every day. There's more and more people playing the game. I don't know why they would abandon ship so early.
Yeah, I think a lot of people honed in on that and were like, even if this were true, it would be so early that anyone saying that would have to be just completely like, it would have to be complete conjecture. It couldn't be, because I mean, there's no way, even just operationally, that could be the case at this point. And Blizzard has a very long history of not doing that. And they also, actually, it was interesting, they did end up getting a comment from Blizzard, but it was specifically about this claim that the Diablo 3 team was working on a new project in the StarCraft universe or something, and Blizzard was like, look, they actually said this to me as well, because I asked if anyone wanted to comment, and they said, you know, we don't comment on rumors, period. And they said that again, they said, we don't comment on rumors, but we do want to make it clear that the Diablo team is not working on this random StarCraft project. And I thought that was really interesting. They were like, we don't want you to get excited, because a lot of us were like, oh, the StarCraft universe.
Is it Ghost? StarCraft Ghost?
So, I mean, I thought that was nice of them to do that, but I think that it was smart of them not to even bother addressing these wild accusations, because a PR team like Blizzard would be swamped if they tried to respond to all of the things like this that happened to them. But I guess, I know I've been talking a lot, but this is the last thing I would say on it, is that for me, at the end of the day, it kind of is encouraging, because I think that if our game is finally to the point where people are making allegations like that, and it's getting attention from, you know, someone who's posting it on Yahoo Finance, which again, why does it belong on Yahoo Finance? But whatever. If it's getting that kind of attention, that means we're on the right track. You know, we started a little bit small, but the growth is so rapid. So I was ultimately kind of encouraged by this. I don't know if that's weird.
So what you're saying is we started at the bottom.
Now we're here with this Reddit post.
Here with this post. Got it. I forgot to mention, guys, if you have any questions throughout the show for us, for our guest iakona, be sure you tweet them to us with #StormShow. With all the beta key giveaways, there's no way we're going to see the questions there in chat. So be sure that you tweet it. I'm watching the Twitter. Anna's watching the Twitter. We'll see your questions.
Yes.
And with that, shall we move on to our other topic of today?
I think that's all we need to give it.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to the important stuff, which is learning to play the game. And the reason that we have iakona here is to teach us something, help us hone our skills. We're going to talk about picking heroes in draft mode.
Yes, so if you guys remember, draft mode is the new mode that came out for custom games as well as the new Hero League. It's the point where you're actually going back and forth picking the heroes. So what we really wanted to do is talk about strategies for picking heroes when you are going into a game. You're just, maybe you've just bought your 10th hero and you're ready to start checking out Hero League. You're going into it solo, and then you realize, I have 30 seconds to figure out who I'm going to play, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're going to try to get some strats here. So of course, like I said before, you can play Hero League, you have to own 10 heroes. So on that, maybe let's start with some suggestions for the types of heroes to have. Would you suggest that our players should maybe specialize in one type, like say, oh, I'm going to have just a bunch of assassins, and other heroes too, but I'm just going to try to play an assassin, or like have a few from each type so that you'd be able to fulfill any role?
So for the ranked mode, for one thing that if you're not aware, you can actually queue anywhere from just yourself all the way up to 5 people. So depending upon the numbers of people you queue with, things can change. But in like a true solo queue fashion, where you're queuing with yourself or maybe like one buddy, I would say it's better to focus your skills on being a flexible player, that you can play all different types of heroes. Just depending upon the order you actually end up in the draft, it might dictate picking a certain hero over or filling out your role. Because if you're at the bottom, you should spend more time actually trying to fix your team with your picks and trying to flesh it out. If you don't have a support, you should go support. If you don't have a tank, you should pick a tank. Okay. While if you're at the top, you can have this. You can specialize, because your first pick, you can always just pick that hero, and you can get it like almost guaranteed every time. So you can specialize in just knowing assassins or just knowing tanks.
Right.
And if you're playing with a party of people, if you put yourself as party leader, I believe you're always going to be above everyone else in your party.
Yeah.
So the more people you queue with, if you're queuing with 5 and you're the party leader, you're always going to be first pick. If you queue with 3 people, then there's only a possibility of like 2 people above you. So
okay.
as long as, so the more people you pick up in your party, the more you can actually specialize and just know a few heroes really, really well. While the less people you queue with, you should have more flexibility of actually knowing how to play heroes in each of the different types of roles in case you need to flush out your team a little.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the biggest learning curves or like things that I've been dealing with as I figure out, you know, what is ranked to me, because you have so much freedom with, you can queue with up to 5 people, but then also those people all have to own 10 heroes, they all have to be online at the same time as you. So in my head it was like, I'm always going to be queuing with 5 because I've built this community of people I like to play with, but it turns out that I generally don't end up having 5. So the hashtag grind to 5 that Gilly and I did has been such a huge help, because I end up in these solo queue situations where my team pretty much just chooses what heroes they want to play regardless of comp, and I'm left like, I really want to win, guys, and I need to find a hero that can hopefully round out my team composition. So I think that's really sound advice, is thinking about, you know, how often are you actually going to be queuing with 5 people, and how is that going to dictate what heroes you probably should have.
Right. I think part of the issue too is a lot of times people say, okay, well I should have a couple tanks, so I'll have Stitches and Arthas. Well, then they get into the situation where they're a last pick, and maybe for some reason nobody else on your team picks a tank, which would probably make you really sad. But the other team picks a Stitches and Arthas, and then it's like, you have to play tank. What are you going to do? Sergeant Hammer? That's a tank, right? No.
You go Tyrael.
You have the team Tyrael. But yeah, so that's always something to consider, guys, is that it's really good to be, if you can fill in any role, people are going to want to play with you a lot more too than if you're saying, I can only play this one role.
And I was thinking,
got a dedicated like group where you always play that role.
Well, and I was thinking that along that same vein, Gilly, that might be interesting for a pro player. And iakona, you can answer this for us, because I would assume if you're a pro player, you're pretty specialized in your role. Granted, you're probably going to be way better at any role than most people, but is that kind of a departure for you where you're like, okay, I always play such and such role, but in ranked play I have to be more of a universalist, or do you just kind of try to get the heroes that you're best at?
So one thing is, for teams in general, it seems each team will have a handful of specialists. So it would generally be like one person that plays supports, one person that plays warriors, and one person that plays assassins. But teams will also have these flex players, as I like to call them, where they can fill a tank, they can fill a range damage, a melee damage. They can kind of fill, so these teams will have some of these flex players, and of course they're going to be better suited for ranked play. But even as, like me personally, I play supports mainly in, like tournaments. So when I queue, I'm going to be trying to go for a support. And it's a little bit of departure what I'm saying before, if I'm like solo queuing and I want to go support, because it's better for me to go flush out whatever role I need. But there's also kind of a flip side that if I'm so good at support that I can almost carry a game for me going on support versus me picking like a ranged assassin to kind of fill out that team. Like it might even be worthwhile me picking like a second support over me picking an assassin, just because that I know that I can like carry a game. If there's certain ones, like each type of like warriors, assassins, supports, they all kind of have heroes really suited for ranked play. So if I can get one of those that makes it really easy to carry games with, I can actually just pick those heroes regardless of what my team does. But I still have to be at times flexible and pick a random tank if I'm last pick somehow.
Right. Do you guys ever queue up as 5 and do like the ranked at all?
Yeah, I would say most of the time I 5 queue. I honestly very rarely like solo queue, just because there will be like a couple friends of mine that will be online and want to rank queue. But I think a lot of, especially when it first came out, all the teams were putting their 5 people into ranked mode for like the whole first week. Everyone was grinding to rank 1 and just trying to get in these matches. Like they're not going to be the exact same as scrims where you have like a different drafting system, but it's still going to be kind of similar, and it's really good practice regardless of someone just if we just queued into quick match, and we just hit some random like group of 5 friends that are just trying to have fun, and then now we stomp them in like 6 minutes. Like in ranked play, it seems in general that the matches, for me at least, are a lot higher quality. I'm hitting a lot of people I recognize and see, and the matches are overall a lot better. So you'll often see teams going S5, or there'll be a combination of like pick up some players from each team S5 and just queue up.
What do you guys do when you're queuing as 5? Because right now there's no option for swapping heroes. So you can't like have someone grab Tychus and then hand off Tychus to another player like you're able to do in like League of Legends or Dota. So how do you guys deal with that? You're queuing
you put your Stitches player as party leader and you queue up. And then you first pick Stitches every time.
That's right. That actually leads into another question that we had, which is like, what are some of the suggestions for good heroes to have, or like commonly picked heroes in Hero League?
I would say Stitches never makes it past first pick. Second pick, it should not pass both teams. Both teams should not give up Stitches just because he's so good in ranked play. He can make plays when you're ahead. He can make plays when you're behind. He can bring the game back no matter what you are. He can end games. He's just so versatile, especially in this ranked mode, which is by nature a little bit less competitive. So people aren't always kind of watching their positioning or keeping in mind that there's a Stitches hook that could get you. So he can often get some really good hooks that can win you games. Basically, Stitches win games, and he's a very good kid.
As long as you have Stitches, you can have whoever else.
But anyone else you want,
Arthas would also be another good warrior, though, because you're not always going to get Stitches. The other team might get them. So I would say Arthas is also another top-tier pick. He's got a lot of survivability. He can also put out a good amount of damage with his Envenom and his Frozen Tempest. For Assassins, I would say Tychus and Vala are the 2 top ones. They both put out a huge amount of damage. They both have built-in escapes, and especially Tychus, who has a second health bar. Like even if you like slightly out of position, you screw up, you can just hit R, and now you have an Odin, get some extra health bar, get some extra damage there. So they're both pretty forgiving. I would say Hammer, even though he's technically a specialist, you play him as a ranged assassin. So I would say he's also out there just because of his high damage output that he can actually do. The one trick, though, is he's a little bit harder to play around with the team if people aren't quite familiar about how to actually make rotations and stuff, because he doesn't have a mount. So he's, by nature, going to be slower most of the time than your team.
Right.
So he's a little bit of a riskier pick, but I think he's still also a top pick for damage. For supports, I would say Brightwing and Uther are the top 2. Uther just brings heals and stuns for days. Like, if someone's slightly out of position, you just chain stun them. That's 2.5 seconds. Any decent player should be able to notice that you're stun locking someone and to shift your damage over there. And I would say Brightwing as well, because she has the global where she can phase shift to your team. And I really like that because even if you get slightly behind, you can do some plays where you're soaking a lane, getting some extra XP, or taking a Merc camp on the opposite side of the map and trying to push lanes and make map pressure. That will help your team. Even if you're ahead, you can do that. And also, she has Emerald Wind, which can make some pretty big plays. If a team engages and you just split their team in half of them go towards, half of them go back, half of them go forward, you can easily pick off the people that are forward. She has 4 seconds of polymorph she can throw on someone. So she's also got a lot of CC, and she can help bring games back when you're behind. So I think those 7, heroes that I covered. Melee assassins are a little tricky, just because by nature they're melee, so they can kind of get picked off. But there are a couple. I would say Thrall and Zeratul can make some pretty big plays. But if your opponent has some heavy CC, you could just get locked down and they could just burst you. So they're a little bit harder to play, and you have to spend a little bit more time actually kind of learning the minute, kind of actually how to play the hero at a higher level. They're a lot less forgiving.
I am learning that as I try to get my Kerrigan Master Skin. I hate my life as a melee assassin, but someday I will prevail.
If you go in and your team doesn't follow, you're dead.
Yeah, I know very well.
So if you go in as a warrior, you have some survivability, so you
Right.
can follow up.
I was going to ask, actually, we have a question on Twitter from D the Hunter. And again, if you have questions, feel free to tweet them at us with hashtag #StormShow. D the Hunter asks, what do you think, Iakona, is the quote-unquote perfect hero composition in Hero League? Like, if you could just straight out pick your comp, what would you pick?
Stitches.
I would say it has to include Stitches.
Start with Stitches, yeah.
I would say first, I would probably put a Brightwing in there for support. For damage, Volaticus, and I would put Zeratul. So, Stitches, Zeratul, Vala, Tychus, and Brightwing
Cool.
would be the 5. Stitches and Brightwing, especially Stitches, you have the ability to come back no matter how far you are behind. When you hook, you have both a Zeratul, Void Prism, and an Emerald Wind that can isolate the rest of their team from the person that you hooked. Because, of course, if you try to hook, the enemy team should try to follow up on that and try to do an engage off the hook. But if you Emerald Wind or Void Prism them, their team can't do that. And you have Volaticus with really good damage. They have, like, good mix of burst and sustained damage, so you can kill whoever actually gets hooked
And
in
then
that amount of time.
And then what motivates the Zeratul pick to complement all those?
Zeratul, he has the Void Prism, which can also isolate, but he also has really good burst with Gathering Power, double Singularity Spikes. He also can harassing too, that you can kind of blink in, drop some bombs, wormhole back. And if you have Brightwing on your team, that takes away one of the strong counters for Zeratul. Personally, when I'm Brightwing, if a Zeratul comes in and tries to throw his bombs, I'm just going to polymorph him for 4 seconds, Emerald Wind him, and he's dead. He's popping right into my team. He's stunned for like 6 seconds. Every 6 seconds of CC, he should die. So taking the Brightwing away from there lets Zeratul really make some big plays with that as well. And on certain maps that have Grave Golem, you can do Void Prism steals. So like Cursed Hollow and Blackheart's Bay and Sky Temple are also really good maps for the Zeratul as well.
Yeah. Evil. It's evil. And Sky Temple too, man. If you can steal that boss, that is the worst. I don't want to talk about it. I'm salty.
Zeratul can also, like what I was saying with Stitches and Brightwing, Zeratul can make plays and make you come back from a game that's lost.
Alrighty.
So there's not a lot of stuns in there. Does that matter? Is that like a thing that you have to... I mean, there is the Void Prison, but you can't really attack them with that.
Hard CC, actually preventing their movement isn't... I guess, in some sense, it is, it's nice to have. But if you're... I would say with your... you have double Polymorph, you have Emerald Wind. You have... Probably you're going to go Stun Slam, or you're going to go Gorge.
Well,
so...
You still have enough to make plays off of.
Yeah, you have Void Prism on there. You also have Tychus Grenade. You have a lot of movement. You don't have keeping someone in place, but you have a ton of displacement of just disrupting, keep separating that person out from the rest of their team. So you should be able to kill them. If they sometimes though, if you hook and they're Zeratul or Tassadar, Tassadar could just hit his Dimensional Shift and go away from there, but you have a Brightwing that has the polymorphs to stop that. If the Brightwing is on point off of the hook, she can chain those polymorphs as well.
I see. So just really being on top of those Stitches hooks and making sure that you keep them away from everyone else.
If you're worried, though, that not having the lack of hard CC, I would say you could change an Uther out for a Brightwing, which Uther alone will just bring enough hard stuns just to kill someone.
Oh, Uther stuns. I had a massive losing streak last night to Uther stuns.
And it's when he had Rewind. He was so stupid.
I was gonna ask that what you just answered, because Kunst on Twitter asked what are the top 3 beginner heroes. So I was thinking maybe if you're just beginning and maybe you don't feel confident in your displacement or kind of your skill, if there are any that may offer that hard CC, or would you, if you're kind of a beginner team, do you think you would change any of those picks for your perfect team?
I would probably swap out the Brightwing for an Uther, like I was saying. It's a lot easier to make plays when someone's not moving versus where they're moving sort of or getting thrown around everywhere. Stitches, I really like Stitches, but he could also be replaced with an Arthas if someone's just not really confident about their hooks. Arthas is a lot better. You can just walk into them. Or even Tyrael. Tyrael can just Judgment. You can't miss a Judgment. it can get cleansed, or they could cheese it like by blinking away. But those, I guess Tyrael would be a good replacement for Stitches if you're not confident with your hooks. It's near impossible to actually miss judgment.
Cool.
For the assassins, I think Tychus and Vala are perfectly fine. They both have built-in escapes. Tychus has Odin, which is his second health bar, so they're both very forgiving. And Zeratul, Zeratul's I think all melee assassins in general are just kind of hard to play. So for that, you'd probably swap him out for just another range damage then. Like you could get a Falstad, or you could get a trying to think, Falstad. You could go Tassadar on there. He's technically a support, but he's a like people play him as a ranged assassin. So you could pick up a Tassadar or a Falstad, which both have escapes as well, so they're more forgiving.
So I noticed that in these comps, you're really staying away from specialists by and large. Is that because in ranked play, you need to have something that's like a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife, kind of more universal, and you would use specialists for, you know, more of a meta-infused actual competitive game, or why is that?
I say in general, most specialists are not really in a good place. Murky's just never quite had that. Maybe back when he first came out, and you could march people down with like double Abathur or double Murky with Abathur, but Murky's never really been in a good place. Abathur also kind of got some nerfs off with the Ultimate Evolution not giving the heroic talent actually, and he kind of fell out of the meta once they took that away and did those changes. Asmoden's never really been played much either. He's got a healing where he's got nice damage, but he doesn't really have the sustained burst. And I think that leaves Nazebo, Hammer, and Gazlo. Oh, Gazlo's not really played that much either. He's more kind of a cheesy, but the two specialists that are played, or there's Zagar too. So there's Zagar, Nazebo, and Hammer, and they're all basically treated as ranged assassins.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, those are the ones I see most often, is Hammer and Nazebo, and then occasionally Zagara.
But all three of those, for all intended purposes, like I don't really consider specialists. In a sense, like those three are all like ranged assassins, and they should be picked as such.
Okay.
There's different types of ranged assassin. Like there's some that have a lot more damage, like a Tychus or a Vala or a Hammer, and there's some that don't really have as much damage, or the damage is like Nazebo's, all of his damage is loaded onto his ult. So he's not quite the same, but he's still pretty close to being a ranged assassin.
Okay.
Speaking of specialists, I just wanted to point it out, a quick tweet that is from Topher Doll at Topher _Doll. It said, "I will donate my next child to serve as an intern on Misscliks if someone plays Murky." So keep that in mind during our play session tonight.
Yes, we'll have to. And if you missed it last week, actually, in all this discussion about Murky and all the derision that always accompanies that, last week we did have Kent Eric Hagman on, one of the designers for Heroes of the Storm, and he played Murky, and we won.
We did.
And I was impressed. I had never seen a Murky played so viably. I played Lily, and the Lily Murky combo is kind of fun.
It is. Trickster plays a mean Murky as well. Sure.
He streams a lot
My
too.
captain got Master Murky, and he's not, like, he's always trying to hide, like, maybe we can pick Murky. Murky's good.
It's just like,
no,
And you guys are like, no.
that master skin is so cool, but I just cannot imagine dedicating that time. I cannot.
Dude.
I think we let him talk us into picking Murky once, and the enemy team just took Cleanse, and Octograb is useless. Because Cleanse is a shorter cooldown than Octograb.
Oh, Murky, why
and then
must
I
you
think someone
torment
actually
us?
did that. I think I played against Cloud9 people in ranked once, and they took Murky, and I just took Cleanse, and they couldn't Octograb anyone. I was like,
Sad. Sad.
so
Rip
yeah,
Murky.
with Cleanse in the meta, and especially with Brightwing Uther being so common, Murky's just very hard to, like, Octograb's really good. It's just so hard to play in this Cleanse meta right now, where pretty much everyone's having a Cleanse.
Yeah.
Or by each team will have a Cleanse, I mean.
I want to just really quick, I forgot at the beginning of this also to give a shout out to heroesfire.com. We use their site unapologetically all the time on our show for no reason other than that it's very useful and we adore it. So shout out to them, and please always give them love. And just check out their site, because if you, for example, get in a game in this ranked play and you're like, wow, I don't know this hero very well, I forget everything that I learned when I was playing them before, you can really quickly click in here, find some guides, find a guide for that hero, and then have it ready during the game to tell you what to pick. So that's your free advertisement for the day for heroesfire.com.
Heroesfire.com. We have a couple of really good questions as still on Twitter. One of them is from John at John Farnham. Is it better to go first or second in ranked picks? So if those of you who don't know, how it happens is the first team gets to pick one hero, and then the second team gets to pick two heroes together. And then it goes back to the first team for two, and then the second team for two, and then the first team does two, and then the second team does one, which is very confusing, but we'll show you that in a bit. What do you think? Do you like first pick or second pick better?
First pick, because you get stitches. Sorry, I keep coming back to this, but he's just so good. But I would say first pick just because stitches.
Mm-hmm.
I would say second pick, they'll generally take Tychus Bala, but if they don't take both of them, then you get stitches and you also get a good ranged assassin as well.
Okay.
So, and I see that happening oftentimes where you'll take stitches and then you get ranges. Sometimes I even get like Tychus and Arthas as follow-up picks. So, yeah, I think first pick is a lot better just because you get stitches.
All right. What about when you're doing like tournaments and there's actually a ban and everything? Do you still prefer first picks then?
So how a lot of team or tournaments do it is if you take, or at least for the first game, if your first pick in hero, like you're picking your heroes first, that means you'll generally be banning maps second. Because they kind of flip it around for the first map, and right now with 6 map, like it also depends upon the tournament because some of them do their map drafting differently, and sometimes it's more advantageous to be first pick or first map banning or second map banning. Okay. I think it sometimes might be better for that, but right now I think first pick is a lot better because it lets you dictate the ban. From what I've been kind of seeing is Tassadar and Stitches are two very common bans right now in the meta, but if the first pick, like if you ban Tassadar as first pick, they'll ban Stitches and then you can take from there. But if you don't ban Tassadar and they ban Stitches, you just get a Tassadar first pick for free.
Which is what you want to do.
Yeah, Tassadar is really strong now because they changed Healing Ward in the recent patch to make it basically impossible to kill again, which brought Tassadar from being maybe picked to being like banned and picked every game.
It's funny that one little change to a talent to Healing Ward influences Tassadar so much.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think.
So you
and they also Rhaegar too. Rhaegar completely fell off the meta because of Healing Ward, and he's starting to make his appearances now again because Healing Ward got changed.
Foreshadowing, Rhaegar is going to be our hero of this week, so get ready for that, people. At Kunst also wants to know, are there heroes I should never pick in Hero League?
We did already talk about Murky.
We talked about Murky.
Yes. I would say most specialists never pick the like Murky, Abathur, Asmodee, Gazlo are 4 you should always stay away from. Sonya
on Sky Temple? He's okay.
I don't know. One of my teammates, he was so convinced that Gazlo was good on Sky Temple, we let him play it, and afterwards he just like it just didn't really work out as I expected. So I trust his opinion on that.
I'm surprised to hear so much like disregard for Asmodee, because I'm not an Asmodee player. I haven't touched him since I did Grind to 5, but I've seen a couple of those in ranked play and been quite annoyed by them. But although they're annoying, I guess they don't really do that much damage, as much as I would think.
Yeah, Asmodee was really on the rise right around BlizzCon, where it was Abathur, Asmodee were the ones picked, and even so much, I think they even banned Asmodee and Anubrak at BlizzCon, and I think part of it was just due to because of this meta that completely developed around the unfair double Asmodee push.
Yeah.
And he got kind of beat on there, and he saw some play with the Tassadar bug where you have infinite minion shields, but he just hasn't really seen much play outside of that. I would also stay away from Sonya. Sonya hasn't really been in a good place. She got nerfed a long time ago, and she just dies too quickly.
It makes me sad.
It doesn't make me sad. I can't stand playing against Sonya.
I
think it's because I've been Kerrigan so much lately, because it's just like Sonya spins, it's like chop, 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 Kerrigan's dead, you know?
Uh,
Heroes to never solo queue.
I know. Why did I choose to master skin Kerrigan? This is like the biggest face palm I can muster.
I would also say Anubrak. They took out Rewind, and he just hasn't really quite been the same since then.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Nubrak in ages.
And Trand's also she's kind of damaged. She's kind of support. She's like all this utility, but she's never really one thing, and she's just really squishy that she could get picked off. I would probably stay away from her. Chen also hasn't really been in a good place since they made Panda Pals interruptible.
I know.
He hasn't even like been picked anymore because of that.
As soon as I saw that on the patch notes, I was like, "Rip, our poor panda."
I would say though, most assassins can be picked, and most supports can be picked. It's just kind of the specialists and warriors that half of them you should not pick in ranked mode.
Okay.
All right. I think we had. I guess the next thing we wanted to ask before quitting is like if we are in that solo queue situation, or even if you're with a team but you end up being kind of first pick or last pick. We've talked a lot about first pick, and it sounds like the answer should be just always pick Stitches, and if not, maybe Tassadar. But if you're last pick, how should you be processing your hero choice? And I've been in this situation a lot, and it drives me nuts. So what should I do?
So first of all, it kind of depends. Like, there's last pick where you're second pick, which means you have 4 heroes that have already been picked and before you. But if you're first pick and you're last pick, then there's only 3 heroes and there's 1 person picking with you at the same time, which could maybe change depending upon what they do. But I would generally look at the roles that you have. Do you have a support yet? Do you have a warrior yet? And by support, I mean not Tassadar, not and not Turan. Those don't count. I'm talking about like actual healers. For warriors, it wouldn't be like Sonya's not in the running. But I would make sure that you would have at least one of each of those. And then if you don't have one of them, then if you don't have a support, I would pick a support. If you don't have a tank, I would pick a tank. If you don't have both, though, I would say a support's probably a better pick of the two. Because it allows for kind of this sustained fighting, and you could just get completely outpoked without a support. So I would lean towards that if you don't have either of them. Otherwise, I would try to go into damage. Just to pick up some extra, to go like a ranged assassin, most likely, or if you really feel confident, you could go a melee assassin. They're a little bit harder to play, but they can also pull out some bigger plays as well. I would not go more than 1 melee assassin, though. Okay. So if you already have a Kerrigan, you already have a Thrall, you're set. You don't need another one.
Okay.
You would just go a ranged assassin, take a Tychus, take a Vala, take a Falstad, take a Tassadar. Just whatever you feel comfortable with playing the most. I would take one of those.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about counterpicking. I know this will get kind of in the weeds a little bit, but what are some maybe heroes or hero pairs that you need to watch out for if you see them pop up on the other side of the draft? It should influence a little bit what your team is choosing.
Yeah, so the easy one, or the one to start with, if they have Stitches, you should look at the people that have escapes. Whether it's like a run and gun on Tychus, whether it's a dimensional shift on Tassadar, whether it's, I don't know, like even like a sprint on Uther. You just want to make sure you can actually get out in case you get hooked. But you also, on the flip side, you can get into a team fight as well with these gap closers. It's kind of a risky move, but it closes the gap and allows you to actually follow up in case your teammate gets hooked.
Okay.
I would also say if they have a Nazebo, make sure and he takes Ravenous Spirit. I've actually seen like half the Nazebos in solo queue take Gargantuan. So if he has Ravenous Spirit, you want to make sure you have a interrupt for that. Okay. Whether that is a Polymorph, an Emerald Wind, a Hook, a Gorge, just something. On a side note, Void Prism doesn't actually stop the Nazebolt anymore. It will just delay it. For the 5 seconds, which can also kind of work in a pinch if that's what you want to go, but it's not a hard stun. That would interrupt it. If they get Arthur's Kerrigan, it's also I would make sure you have an escape. That's a really heavy gank squad. They're gonna be looking to catch people. Okay. Especially if you kind of get in this situation that happens a lot where you have 5 people in mid lane and they have 5 people in mid lane, and you're just kind of poking and pushing the lane back and forth. They have something like an Arthur's Kerrigan. they can engage on you at any point in time and just kill someone. So you want to make sure that you kind of have an escape so you can dodge. If you see Kerrigan coming in, you can vault away, or you can like barrel away to kind of mess up that combo and make sure you're not actually caught.
Okay.
If they have a Zeratul as a support player, I really like picking like a Brightwing or even an Uther into that. They come in to try to harass. I just chain stun them. Like, it's gotten to a point when I go against like these pro players, like people won't even like poke against me. Because, like they're just like completely scared, or they'll go for people like that are, if like the team isn't clumped up enough, they'll go for people on the edge that's like farthest away from me or whatnot. But I would be looking. That's a little bit harder thing to do though, harder counter. You have to be more on top of it, but you can actually really punish the Zeratul for that. If they have a stealther, either Nova or Zeratul, I'd also try to look at getting a some type of vision granter. So you can look at a Tassadar with his Oracle, or you could look into like Rhaegar, which has Farsight. You could look into like Uther, which has Clairvoyance, or just good ways to reveal stealthers. Like Arthas has Frozen Tempest that you can just always have on him. So if there's a stealther nearby, they're just revealed. So I would look into a way to actually kind of make sure you see them, because you can see that there's stealth in this game. Like there's it's like a StarCraft system where if you look hard enough, you can tell that there's a stealth unit there. But not everyone is always keeping an eye on that, or maybe they're hiding into a bush and you can't see them. So having a way to actually reveal them is nice for that.
Awesome.
Good stuff. That helps me a lot.
Yeah.
I feel much more equipped now.
I do too. Mainly, I'm just gonna practice stitches a lot.
Yeah, I know. Once I get my master skin, I'm playing a hero that doesn't die.
Your poor Kerrigan.
And if they also if they run like a Zeratul Void Prism off of there and like try to steal like a golem, you could try to even like cheese the cheese where you hook them away from it. Like if you get stitches and a Zeratul tries a Void Prism, you stand away and you can look to like hook him off of there, or you could even go like Mighty Gust on a Falstad to kind of interrupt that. But that's not like really a common thing. It's depending upon map, but that could also be something you could look into to make sure you don't get your Merc Camp stolen from you, because that's the worst feeling ever.
Yeah,
you're like about to do it and they're like,
You can do it with Brightwing too if you're in the right position with the Emerald Wind.
Or even Mighty Gust. I think my Sims, my teammate, made a video where he flew over like behind a golem pit on Cursed Hollow, Mighty Gusted them out, and then dashed through a wall to cap it.
Wow.
Oh, evil.
So you can even do it with Mighty Gust, but I'm trying to think. If they have Murky for God knows why, it's probably going to be an Octograb, so I'll look into a Cleanse, which basically either means at this point Brightwing or Uther. And same with Tyrael. If it's a Judgment, it's a little bit harder or a higher skill cap to actually cleanse that, but if you can actually kind of tell who they're going to pick, if you cleanse them before the Judgment even hits, the Tyrael will just stop moving, and his ult goes on full cooldown.
As a Tyrael player, I'm really angry that you shared that.
It had to happen someday, Gilly.
Thank you.
Well,
But you also can look, if they have a Tyrael, you can look at people with disjointment. So if you're Zeratul and a Tyrael Judgments you can blink before it hits you, and it will completely stop the ult as well. If you're Vala, you can vault. That'll stop it. So you can also look into kind of a displacement. I think most kind of movement dashing effects, or even like Tassadar's dimensional shift will like basically cancel out that ult.
Yeah, because you're basically judgmenting from full range, and if you go out of vision, it stops it. So it's really frustrating if you like hit judgment and then they just move out. You're like, no, but okay, and then you move forward and you try it again, and they just move out. You're like, I just want to judge you. Why can't I do it?
It's not even like getting out of vision though. Like if you just dash away, like it'll just stop.
It just stops it?
It just stops it. Like even if you're there, like you could dash forward to the Tyrael and it'll stop it.
Oh.
It's just like there's like some underlying code that basically makes you at a new position, and like you're no longer judgmenting anyone basically.
Well, cool.
Well, guys, we're getting close to when we want to start our play session, and I want to not rush through that. So I know we have a Rhaegar build. Are we going to talk about the Rhaegar build during the play session, or should we go over it real quick now?
I think the plan was to do the play session, but I can link it in chat.
Okay.
So that people can be prepared and kind of follow along as we're playing.
Sounds good to me. So, Yeah, I'm really excited about all these tips. Thanks so much, Iakona, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Hope that
Yeah.
helps you guys at home with your solo queue or other experiences with ranked. I know it will for me. And right now we're going to take the stream offline for just a minute. We're going to pull some people in to play in a custom game with us. I'm going to observe so that we can watch Iakona play Rhaegar, and he's going to tell us about the build that he uses to play Rhaegar and answer any more of your questions that come up. And we're going to give away more beta keys, so keep on chatting, and hopefully you'll win one.
Yeah, we'll be back soon.
See you guys!